So I'm watching this interview of this super famous basketball player. He's probably one of the best in the world. And this guy talks about that in the beginning, when he was getting started, he was practicing. He got into basketball at a super young age. And he has, even to this day, a very strict regiment of when he's going to practice basketball. And he shoots like 1,000 free throws a day. I can barely say it, or that's what he was doing when he was training, and he still does that now. And basically what he was saying is he's super disciplined, and he's always pushing himself, and he's practicing a lot. Now, what some people might do is they might say, well, why do you have to do that? You're so good at basketball already. You know, let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, this guy's basketball skills are like 99.2, right? Where like 100 is like no one's even ever reached 100 before. And he's let's say 99.2. Well, all this practice he's doing at the skill set that he has, he might have to work his butt off for maybe a year or two to go from like 99.2 to 99.3 or 99.4. Why does that matter? Well, what the greats understand is they practice the principle from the book The Slight Edge. And the thing is, going from a 0 skill set to like a 50% skill set in anything is usually not that hard because there's not a lot of serious people in anything. Going from 50% to 80% is generally a lot harder than going from 0 to 50%. 80% to 85% might be harder, and it might require more work than going from 0% to 80% of a skill set. And it just gets harder as you climb up. It gets harder and harder and harder, and the percent you increase shrinks. What most people don't understand, though, is it's the small differences, as Alex Hermosi says, the devil's in the details. The better you get and the higher percent in your skill set in any field you go up, there's a compounding effect that happens. And when you're competing against people in the best, that are the best in the best, and the best in their space or the best in the world, these small little micro improvements from like maybe 89 to 90 and 90 to 90 and a half are what separates the people that everyone knows about and the people that get trophy number 1 and trophy number 2 compared to people that get trophy number 5. And it's worth going the extra distance to getting these small little micro improvements once you're already doing good, because the level it affects you is unbelievably crazy. Now, how does this apply to dropshipping? So I'm looking at some of my client stores, and there's more factors than this, but one of my main client store, this guy's on it. This guy is dropshipping from the places that I recommend dropshipping from. He's tax exempt everywhere. He's basically doing everything he's supposed to be doing. And it's interesting. He even responds to my emails. He's always the first guy to actually pay his invoices, and out of everyone I'm running, and he pays his invoices on time. He always he's like on it. Even though his business is automated, he's like on it, right? Because I send out an invoice once a month, and it's a thing, but it's like he's on it. If there's like a new place I'm thinking about doing or a little tweak that might require 2 minutes of effort on his part, he always gets back to me the fastest. He's even the most proactive out of all my clients, which is an interesting phenomenon to kind of observe to begin with. But he's tax exempt everywhere. He does everything that I recommend. And and he gets about 10 sales a day. I have another client of mine. He does pretty much everything this guy's doing, but he's not tax exempt. This other client of mine gets about 3 sales a day. Now, I'm implementing the same strategies. I'm actually listing pretty much a lot of the same products in everyone's store, along with my store. Because when you have the right product, you can list it a bunch of times and it doesn't matter. It's a beautiful thing. So what happens is, I've been telling some of my automation clients that you want to get tax exempt. You want to be tax exempt. And some of my clients are tax exempt, which is great, but some of them are not tax exempt. Now, my one client that's not tax exempt is getting 3 sales a day. My other client's getting 10 sales a day. Now, you might say, Aaron, does being tax exempt, does that one little thing matter? Now, there are other things to consider as well, right? And it could be like, right? Maybe I had to hire and fire a bunch of VAs in one store, so that takes more time, right, to get a store going. There's other factors of it as well. But with everything being the same, we're listing great items, we're listing them the right way. With tax exempt in and of itself, for example, that will just boost the store up just a little bit. Would that thing really matter between getting 3 sales a day and 10 sales a day? Well, I can't say something for certain, but I do understand the principle we just talked about and practicing the principle of the slight edge, and I also understand that having all these little things, big or small, has a compounding effect. So here's why. My client that's tax exempt, the one that's getting about 10 sales a day, this client of mine, it seems that Facebook over time almost white hats certain drop shippers. Like if you're taking care of your customers, if you're consistently selling items, if you're not getting a lot of claims, it's almost like they whitelist the account, which is just a fancy way of saying that this account has more potency and Facebook likes it more than a brand new account or account in the middle. And if that's the case, and again, this is just what I'm kind of observing. I only have like 10 client stores, so it's not like I got, 1,000 stores. But from what I'm observing, when they like an account, it's almost like it helps boost all the sales of that store. And they start showing these person's listings over others' listings. And then when you combine that from listing the right items and listing them the right way, so a higher percentage of people that see someone's listings click those listings, and a higher percentage of people that click the listing buy, right? So the conversion ratio is higher. All these little things have a compounding effect, and I've watched it over my client store that's getting 10 sales a day. His store consistently takes off. Now, why is it that the other client of mine that I brought on is pretty much doing all the exact same thing, got started around the same time? This client did get started a little bit sooner, but just a little bit now. It's kind of inconsequential. This client right here is pretty much all the same thing. His VAs were actually pretty good, right? I didn't have to, sometimes you got to hire and fire, a handful of people until you find someone that's good. And that can, slow down the store because you're hiring and firing them. But everything else was the same. He's only getting 3 sales a day. Why is he only getting 3 sales a day? Because of the compounding effect that can happen when everything's firing at full potency, when everything's firing at 100%. Because when you're tax exempt, you can be more competitive on the price, yet still make the same amount that you were when you were not tax exempt. That can help you sell more items. And if you're selling more items, even if you just start off selling a little bit of items, right? Because this client of mine that's getting 10 sales a day, he didn't start off like that. He started off with just a little bit of items. I saw it in a store, right? His store in the beginning was getting, 5 sales a week. And other client stores were getting 2 to 3 to 4 sales a week. Then his store started getting 1 to 2 sales a day. And other client stores are getting 1 sale a day. But over time, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And even though 3 sales a day from this other client of mine is getting about 3 sales a day, and he's not tax exempt. I mean, that's still good. There's still some people that are are struggling to get a few sales a day, or some people are even struggling to get 1 or 2 sales a day. But over time, it gets bigger. It's like you go into like the stratosphere. That's why you see some of these people. Like, I remember when I started going to the gym and I started running. And if I could run just a quarter of a mile, it was crazy, right? And then I'd be dead. And then I could run about half a mile. And now I can get to the point where I've ran, 5, 6 miles. And I could see that, okay, let's say that, I continue this and I have the ability to continue this. So I'm not going to die. My leg's not going to fall off, right? But, aside from anything like that happens, if I were to keep pushing myself to running, I could see that maybe over a few year period, if I did this, I might be able to easily start running marathons or start doing crazy stuff. You see some of these people, they run 50 miles in one day, 100 miles in one day. You can build yourself up to that if you're optimizing everything fully. So for those of you that are watching this video that are drop shipping, if you're serious about drop shipping, treat the entire thing seriously. Have all the green checks turned on that you can. Get tax exempt. Use cashback sites. List the items the right way. And if you have training that will teach you how to list the items the right way, my guess is if it's really good training, If you go through that training once, you might get 80 to 90% of it, but there might be 5 or 10% of it that's killing you. I've shared with you guys before that I had a student of mine that bought my program, and he was struggling to be successful. And he's telling me he's listing all the right items the right way. And I'm like, well, if you're listing the right items the right way, you should be getting more sales than you are now, especially because you've been doing this for 9 months. I looked at one of his listings, and one of his listings was for like a king-size bed frame. I think that's the exact item it was for. A king-size bed frame. The title was perfect. The images were perfect. They were really, really good images. And as I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow, his shit's actually pretty good. I look in the description. The description is actually perfect. It's spaced out how I teach to be spaced out, because that matters. He's using my template. But there's one little line that says, comes in twin, queen, king, and California queen. Or California king. That one little line kills the entire listing. Now, you still might get occasionally a sale every now and then because people might not read the description. But like that one little line of saying it comes in 4 different sizes when the listing is just for a regular king, people will see that and they'll be like, wait, I thought this was for a California king bed, or I think it was a king bed frame. A king bed frame. The pictures are of a king bed frame. The title says king bed frame. Why is it in the description it says comes in twin, queen, king, and California king? So what? There's a 25% chance now I'll get a king size? This is too confusing. This is a green light. I'm out. That one little line can easily kill 80 to 90% plus of the sales coming through. The devil is in the details. The small details matter. And I've even tried to, because I got a couple automation clients of mine that are not tax exempt. I try to explain it to them. I try to sell them. It's like I can't force them to be tax exempt, but I'm like, these little details can matter. Now, Aaron, if I do all the little details, does that matter that I'll be... There's not 100% certainty with anything. If you want 100% certainty, I can't help you out. There's no certainty with anything. But what I could tell you is that the people that do all the things they're supposed to be doing always have a higher chance of success in any field than the people that only do 70, 80, or 90% of the things they're supposed to be doing. If you're stuck at 1, 2, 3 sales a day, make sure that you don't have 1 or 2. It can be as small as 1 or 2 small little things in your store. The listings, what we just talked about with being tax exempt, all these things, that could be the reason that your store is not as successful as it could be. And by not as successful, I'm talking like 70%. There's the potential for it to be 70% better just by increasing potentially 5, 10, or 15%. The small little increase from like going from like 92 to like 97%, that one little increase can very easily could double or triple your sales in your store.